welcome home. Turn it back over to Charles.
Welcome, good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Framingham. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and we are a welcoming congregation, which means no matter who you love, how you move around in the world, your race, your age, your gender identity, your gender, your beliefs, no matter where you are in life's journey, you, yes, you are welcome here. I am Rupal Bhatt. I use she, her pronouns, and I am your worship associate this morning. Please be sure to read the announcements in the order of service, and also be sure to put your phones and other devices that might make noise to their quietest settings. While beeps and buzzes can be distracting, we welcome your human noises, your cooing, your laughter, and your singing. And please join us for coffee and conversation in Scott Hall across the courtyard. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. It takes a lot of courage to try out a new religious community. We look forward to getting to know you better. If this is the religious community that you call your own, welcome home.
So we should have put this a little bit further ahead in the order of service, but that is fine. I have two announcements. The first is that this week, the contents of the archives mailbox in the office have gone missing. Please do not touch that mailbox unless you are the archivist, in which case you already know who you are. If you did touch those items and remove those, please return those to Kathy Mello. The second is the sad news that our longtime church member, Charlie Cormier, passed away on Tuesday. He was 75 years old and he died from complications of chemotherapy. Visiting hours for Charlie will be held tomorrow at Nardolillo Funeral Home in Cranston, Rhode Island, from 9 to 10, with a service afterwards at 10. Let us all hold a moment of silence for him this morning. May his memory be for a blessing. And I will send out an email with those details of the funeral home and its address, so later on today. Let us now release all that we need to let go of in order to be more fully present to yourself, to one another, and perhaps the sacred in this time and place.
I share these words for our chalice lighting. Let us light this chalice in recognition of our shared journey. We acknowledge that failure is not an end, but a stepping stone for our growth. In our moments of setback, we find seeds of resilience and the courage to love ourselves and each other more deeply. Let this flame remind us that love in all its forms holds the power to transform our failures and guides us to revise our narratives. Please join with the spoken, Now we have to rise in body and spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 318, We Would Be One. Okay, please remain standing and sing our words of affirmation. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one another, and with our God.
I am the Reverend Aaron Stockwell Wiseman. I am the senior minister of this congregation, and I use he, him pronouns. This is the time in our service that we share the things which weigh deepest on our hearts, our milestones, our happy and sad occasions. We share these because we know that a sorrow shared can feel as though someone is lifting a burden, and a joy shared can expand that joy. You can submit these joys or sorrows online, or you can write them at the book that is normally at the back of our sanctuary before our services. I share these sorrows. Ben Long writes, I'm thinking of those who suffered from hurricanes Helene and Milton, wishing them all well. Diane B. writes, holding love and support for so many friends dealing with loss and change. Ellen Cormier shares the sorrow of the death of her husband and great love, Charlie, from complications of chemotherapy, age 75. And Jim Hansen shares this sorrow for family members struggling with depression. Let us now sing Comfort Me. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. And these are the joys of our congregation. Debbie and Dave Doucette write, we celebrated my cousin's 90th birthday and our grandson's first birthday this weekend. Such a joy. Jessica shares this joy to see my loving and courageous, wonderful mother passing on her love to my own children, a blessing I will never take for granted. Rebecca Crawford shares this joy, wishing my youngest a happy 11th birthday today. Dave Doucette writes that he submitted a plastic bag law for the Marlborough City Council. May pass, may fail, we'll find out later. Thank you for your efforts in this realm. Kathy Mello shares this joy that I was overjoyed for my nephew and his girlfriend in Florida, who welcomed a beautiful baby girl on October 14th named Sienna Marie. And Carol Boyce shares, Bob and I are glad our friends Amanda and Lisa came to visit our church today. With all of these joys, and for all of these joys, let us now sing with me. Sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. And we light one final candle for all of those joys and all of those sorrows which remain too great to share, yet weigh heavy on our hearts. Let us now sing, Speak for Me. Speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Now we take a moment to center ourselves in the ways that we know best. Maybe it is focusing on your breath in and your breath out. Maybe it is noticing where your feet are, what is supporting those feet. Maybe it is taking notice of the people to your left and your right. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls us each by our true first name, which is beloved. We give thanks for this community, for the wonder of life unfolding, for our children, for our parents, for those living deeper and exploring what might make their heart truly sing. For all this and more, we give thanks. We know, too, that in our world, it is beautiful and it is also broken. There are people who are mourning the loss of loved ones, people who are alone for the first time in a very long time, or people that always live and struggle with loneliness. People recovering from the ravages of hurricanes and the tempests of mental illness, addiction. Let us lend listening ears and helping hands to all those who struggle this morning and this week. Our world, as I said, is beautiful and it is also broken. Let us find ways to bring peace to all of the war-torn parts of our world. From time to time, we fail. We fail to live up to our highest ideals. We put up barriers and walls between ourselves and others, and perhaps between the mystery beyond all understanding and us. The good news is that we are all still breathing. I heard it myself. We all still have a chance to move back into right relationship. We can rewrite the story of our lives. I say these words, and do all things for love's sake. Now we will sit in the quiet of this space. That is your only job for the next minute. You can put those to-do lists aside. Simply sit in quiet so that you might rest or pray the prayers of your own hearts. May the silence that we have held here hold us in the coming week.
As we gather in this sacred space, we pause to reflect on the abundance in our lives. We give thanks for the love that binds us together and the shared purpose that guides our journey. May our contributions nourish our community and extend our reach to those in need. The morning offering will be joyfully given and gratefully received. Thank you, that was beautiful. Failing and Flying by Jack Gilbert. Everyone forgets that Icarus also flew. It's the same when love comes to an end, or the marriage fails and people say they knew it was a mistake, that everybody said it would never work, that she was old enough to know better, but anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Like being there by that summer ocean on the other side of the island while love was fading out of her, the stars burning so extravagantly those nights that anyone could tell you they would never last. Every morning she was asleep in my bed like a visitation, the gentleness in her like antelope standing in the dawn mist. Each afternoon I watched her coming back through the hot, stony field after swimming, the sea light behind her and the huge sky on the other side of that. Listened to her while we ate lunch. How can they say the marriage failed? Like the people who came back from Provence, when it was Provence, and said it was pretty, but the food was greasy. I believe Icarus was not failing as he fell, but just coming to the end of his triumph.
Everyone forgets that Icarus also flew, the poet reminds us. Anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Icarus was not falling and failing as he fell, but just coming to the end of his triumph. How many of us only remember our failures? We don't need to show our hands. We know the places where we feel that we have come up short, and we don't appreciate the success that came right before the moment where we came up short. The flying right before the fall. I know that I can be this way sometimes, when I only chalk something up as a failure, not appreciating the success or the learning that comes from that failure. Now, before we get too far into our sermon today, we must remember the stakes of failure. Let us not ignore then that in this poem, as in the myth, that Greek myth, that the stakes for Icarus are incredibly, incredibly high. When he falls, he dies. He drowns in the Aegean Sea. He went too high, and the wax in his wings melts, and he falls to his death. While this poem is about remembering to learn in some way from our failures, it is also about loss. What do we learn if we fail or we come close as we can to failure, and we still live? Maybe this is not true for everyone, but I often find when I am embarking on some new task, on something big, early on I have this moment where I say, whoa, no thank you. I want to go back to the place where I was comfortable before I started this. Anyone else feel that way? No need to show your hands, but thank you. Thank you for doing that. So this summer, I completed 2 triathlons, sprint-length triathlons. And the first one, I nearly gave up about 5 minutes in, probably less than that. I gave up because I got in the swim way over my head, way in over my head, and I started to panic. I started to have the closest thing to a panic attack that I have had in the water. And I started cussing up a storm. Won't repeat any of those here, but I am human. And I saw the kayaks around me. I saw the motorboats. And I said, I can give up right now. Maybe I should give up right now because I don't know what the moments right before drowning feel like. And I know that one of my cousin's husbands is an EMT on the shore, and I do not want to see him. So maybe maybe I should give up before I require medical attention. And in between that panic, in between the swearing a little too much, I caught my breath and I continued on. I was the third last out of the water and the second to last to cross the finish line at the end, but I did. I did complete that. And having completed it, I said, well, I can do this again, right? So I signed up for another sprint-length triathlon. The swim was a little bit shorter. I thought that was a good move on my part. And I had bought a new piece of gear, and it had arrived the day before the triathlon. And there's the old race day adage that you never try nothing new on race day. So I asked my wife, Lizzie, can we go for a swim? I know it is 12 hours before we have to get up, but I need to do this. So we get out, we're swimming in Morse's Pond in Natick. And sure enough, 50 feet out, I have this moment where I say, nope, I'm turning back. And Lizzie, who has listened to a few of my sermons, says, well, okay, tell me how the water feels right now. And I say, well, it is supporting me. Feels wet. Thanks, dear, for that. Great. She says, okay, what are 4 things that you can see? Say, well, I can see the trees, I can see the clouds, I can see the water, I can see these people on the land, and I know exactly what you're doing, dear. Because I taught this to you, and thank you. She says, okay, great. What are 3 things that you can hear? And I list them. And 2 things you can smell, and I list them. And 1 thing I can taste, which was lake water, and it was not great. But I calmed down, and I continued the swim. And it was the swim distance that I needed to do the next morning. So the next morning, I start the swim. I'm going slower this time. I have learned that is one thing with the swim. People start it too quickly. And I have this split second of panic, and I note a house on the shore, I note a buoy, and I continue on. And I finish that day. And I don't think that I am going to die on that day. What if we lived our lives as though they were rough drafts? Never nervous about what is getting published. Always knowing that we can erase something if it doesn't work. That we can revise something. That we can take what we like and we can simplify, or we can make it as complicated as possible. When I was younger, at the age that most of you here probably first encountered the Beatles, I too fell in love with their music. Really, everything post-Rubber Soul was what I loved. I had it on constant rotation in my CD player. That tells you the age that I am. Most of you probably had it on LP. Maybe a few of you had it on MP3. But I also came into my Beatles listening phase when the Beatles anthology series had just been released, or had been released several years before, actually. And I loved those tracks on the anthology a whole bunch as well. I loved listening to how a song came into development, how a song went from the demo track through various versions and changes, and how they turned into the songs that we all love. The melodies and songs and words that we have imprinted on our minds. I love the rough drafts of those songs, sometimes even more than the polished version. I love hearing the failure or the changes that happened. Strawberry Fields Forever is, in particular, one that haunted me. It's probably the first Beatles song that I knew as a Beatles song. It's the first song off of their Best Of album, known as the Blue Album, because, surprise, there is blue on the cover. Starting out with the mournful flute sound of Paul's mellotron, then Ringo's drums, George's guitar, and then John's singing and songwriting. The nearly minute-long instrumental outro with Swar Mendel, reverse mellotron, and a weird repetition of the phrase cranberry sauce. It's there. Listen for it. But when I listened to the 3 versions that are on the anthology, we hear the rough drafts. We get to hear how the song formed. The first version on the anthology track is just the demo. It's just John singing along on his guitar. Most of the lyrics, they're there. The lyrics have formed. The demo appealed to me because I could kind of sort of play that in my bedroom on my guitar, and that felt pretty good. Then we hear take 1, which contains some of the sound that we know and love, but not quite. We follow it up with take 7 next. It's nearly the same version. We see the growth. A rough draft, especially when available next to a final draft, I think can help us appreciate that final draft a little bit more. The act of living, of creating, is an awesome thing, and we are part of a larger story. Elizabeth Jarrett Andrews says, when we create with sincerity and affection, we swim in a transformational current that began long before we started and will continue long beyond completion. And the middle of the story is rocky, isn't it? It's tough to move and live in a new place until you realize one day that you have friends there. Maybe the fights you have with siblings or your children until one day you've grown and they've grown too. The new treatment that ravages your body until the doctor tells you the cancer is gone. It's like trying the new antidepressant that doesn't work when you first try it, but takes a little while. And then there's the day that it does work. The loneliness of an empty house after a relationship has ended. That awkward introduction you have when you have decided that a new name or a new pronouns fit you best. Sometimes the middle part, that's actually the best part. A relationship that ended, but there were good times in the middle. A loved one dies and the end is so heartbreakingly sad, but there are good times in between. Good times too that need to be remembered. Perhaps it is our inner critic, which I usually say from this pulpit, the inner critic is bad. Maybe sometimes, every now and then, it's actually good. It actually pulls us along for the ride. Elizabeth Jarrett Andrews explains that lore and that longing in this way. No kudos can assure us that we've arrived. Martha Graham biographer Agnes DeMille tells of a conversation that's worth relating here. Herself a choreographer, DeMille was dispirited. She believed that her best work had been ignored by critics, while her work on Oklahoma, which she felt was only fairly good, was a flamboyant success. DeMille told Graham that she only saw her work's ineptitude, the inorganic flaws. I am not pleased or satisfied, she said. No artist is pleased. Graham retorted, but then is there no satisfaction? No satisfaction at any time. Graham said, there is only a queer divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others. The theologians write about this. They call it the divine lure that calls us into further life. Catherine Keller says this: the invitation is what in process theology we call the divine lure. The lure is God's offering, or the mystery's offering of possibility, moment by moment, to every creature from a primordial photon of light to all the levels of creaturely life. And yes, to each of us humans, moment by moment, an invitation, not a determination, not an omnipotent power of creation from nothing. Now, what is true is that sometimes you have to call the rough draft done. You have to say the revisions have to come to a close. It's time to let the paint dry, time to save the file, no more edits to be made. It's time to start writing whatever comes next. Sometimes it's because of a deadline. Sometimes the story that the chapter is about, the chapter that the story is about, rather, is done because another person has said it must come to a close. And even then, we continue to write our stories until we die. Stream of consciousness in our minds, or perhaps in verse or prose or halting haikus. Andrews says, one measure of completion is whether the project still has a hold on you. Can you learn more about the literary craft, about your subject matter, the writing process, or yourself, about applying writing's lessons to your life? Ask yourself, is this project done with me? If the piece offers you an opportunity to grow, or if it demands more balance or beauty or depth, be willing to serve it. That said, most projects eventually cease working on us within the privacy of composition. For the give and take of creativity to continue, she says, we need a new relationship with the project, usually including other people. The honest answer to the question, am I done, may always be no. But at some point you are, or the writing is done enough. How do we become comfortable with letting a story come to an end? The end of a love story isn't, and they lived happily ever after. No, the next phrase is, and it was a lot of work. So what is theological about living a rough draft life? Where is the good news? We do not have to go at it alone. Our rough drafts, our failures can be beautiful, and we have the strength and support of the community. When we fail, which if we live enough life, we will, it is good to have others to lean on. We show up week after week here in this community, not because the coffee is good, though it might be, or not because the sermon is always inspiring, though it might be. We show up because we are each other's magnitude and bond. We show up because we care about each other. Andrews says this, that houses of worship pass around the offering plate, deliver meals to the homebound, lay out funeral spreads of cold-cut sandwiches and potato salad. Or in her case, clothe me after I lose everything in a fire. Friendships are sustained and communities served in an open circle of giving. And so, my friends gathered here, we can fail. We will fail. We will make mistakes, and from that, we will transform. We can choose new directions. We can wrestle with the words of our own story for as long as we want. We can write new stories. We can revise, and we can begin again. We can do that because there is a beautiful truth about life in community. We are not alone, and you are also not alone. May it be so, and amen. So let us now rise in body or spirit. Both of those work just fine. We'll sing our final hymn. It's number 1012 in the turquoise hymnal, When I Am Frightened. At the end of our service, we'll hear another beautiful piece by the bell choir. I encourage you to sit and embrace and hear this music. And so as we leave this friendly place, let us take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Amen. Go in peace.